Hey everybody, welcome to Northernlion Tries Over the Alps. There's been I was going to use the term a rash of games, but I don't think that's what it conjures skin irritation and bumps and itchiness, etc., etc. Let's call it a deluge of games that have come from the Apple Arcade to Steam recently. This is the newest one that I'm aware of, but of course Exit the Gungeon came out last week or 2 weeks ago, and then before that we played Assemble with Care that came out, just a couple of days after that. This is Over the Alps. It is a espionage-tinged narrative game, previously available on the Apple Arcade. And some of the people involved in the creation of this game used to work at a company called Inkle, which is why I was originally intrigued by this, to be honest, because Inkle made one of my favorite mobile games of all time, 80 Days. If you haven't played 80 Days, I strongly encourage you to check out 80 Days. Let's see what the heck is going on here with Into the Alps. Honestly, I didn't even know what I was clicking on. We're starting with Chiazzo. Mussolini fumes over daring prison escape. 4 prisoners escaped from a detention facility outside of Milan last night in an incident the Italian Prime Minister has branded the work of foreign agents. In a statement this morning, Mr. Mussolini vowed that no efforts would be spared to retrieve the prisoners, whom he described as dangerous political insurgents. Alrighty. Postcard. Aubrey. I've been enjoying the sights and smells of Milan, my friend. Maybe we get to choose what we put on here? I'm not sure yet. Give it a second. Quite a city, no matter what Mussolini's doing to the place. But Mussolini will wreck it in the end. Or, fascism will never overcome beauty, it will die trying. Or, I won't tell you precisely what I got up to. Very interesting. Okay, so there's like, I don't know what I would describe this as. Pious, maybe? This is like emotional, and this is like sneaky. Okay, let's say, you know what? Let's be passionate. Fascism will never overcome beauty. It will die trying. I might retire to Milan when this is all over. Perhaps Control might set aside a patch of land near Lake Como for me. And would you believe it? I even met a girl. Or, and we will beat them, the fascists, every last one of them. Or, I'll earn it, that's for certain. Honestly, that seems like my line right there. Note, you are an aloof British agent. Riva San Vital in a few hours, Aubrey. We'll keep you posted on how I get on. Act 1, the Italian Gambit. Yo, it's one of the things I like about these Apple Arcade games, at least the ones, that are, I don't want to phrase this in a negative way, but that are from, accomplished, narrative designers. They look so gorgeous. Okay, so let's figure out what the heck we're doing. 49 steps, Aubrey, and they call 49 stops, Aubrey, and they call this an express. Switzerland is full of these electric trains, the young woman in my compartment remarked as we were lurched to a halt once again. Not enough fuel here to run proper trains. No good coal mines, I think. Well, who's laughing now? She smiled at me, a prim, unaccustomed smile, like an ill-fitting shoe. That will soon change, she added. It will? Just like that? I rather like the mountains as they are, Fraulein. I ignored the remark and continued to gaze out the window. I like it. Aloof is a cat. That's the perfect characterization. So in real life, I would probably be like, it will, just like that, because I'm polite and deferential. But the person that I want to be in my head is, I rather like the mountains as they are, Fraulein. So let's go there. Then you are in luck. We'll be amongst them for many more hours. She stuck out a gloved hand. Fraulein Wolf. Not Swiss, German. Mr. Smith, I said as I shook the outstretched hand. I'm not making this up, Aubrey. That was her name. Or, the greatest of pleasures, Fraulein, I returned. This is like polite, eloquent gentleman, I suppose. I'll just politely introduce myself as Mr. Smith. Note, you are now honorable. I'm interested to see how those kind of personality traits change things. Right now, I'm thinking they might just open up, new dialogue options that we get sent down, but I don't know if maybe it'll gate off dialogue from us in the future or something because it's out of our personality. Smith. Ah, she nodded, as though very content with my answer. Do you think she's an enemy agent? The train lurched back into motion. For a moment, we were jostled together, 5 empty seats, and she had picked the one beside mine. Where are you headed, Fraulein? Or, I hear the air up there is exhilarating. Or, Fraulein, please do try to keep your balance. I don't find that lack of inner ear equilibrium coquettish. Do try to keep your balance, please. I notice our stamps are, you can't really see, maybe I'll move my camera a little bit here, but the stamps are aggregating in the top right corner. I wonder if this won't be used for something at some point, or be, you know, serve as a record of our progress so far. Ah, but that is why I'm sitting next to you. Don't you see, so that I might catch your arm to steady myself. These Swiss trains are like cattle carts. She turned to examine her reflection in the window glass and adjusted the fall of her hair. A pity. The way those soft blonde waves hit her brow worked fine for me. Fraulein tried a few more starters, but without success. But you are from Germany? They say a war is coming. I mean, that doesn't seem apropos of very much at all here. We passed the rest of the journey in silence. A little awkward. Let's engage in a conversation about the upcoming war so I can have some context for where we're at in the game. She nodded. I'm quite sure of it, but even if our countries are at war, it does not mean that we must be, does it? Not on such a beautiful day in such a beautiful place as this? I hope not, at least. Perhaps I would be in luck and Fraulein Wolf would prove to be my contact. Interesting so far. It does feel 80 Days-esque, honestly. If you're not familiar, basically that game was a little bit like... it was a take on Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days, and it was a narrative-driven game where the game mechanic was predominantly like dialogue and the choices you made in dialogue, but it also had light mechanics like an inventory system and the ability to buy and sell things in order to finance your journey. And I really liked that combination, partly because the writing was like atypically extremely good by video game standards, and really just by agnostic standards, I think. So I'm hoping we get a little bit more of the light mechanic stuff here, but we'll see. For now, let's take a look at these options menus. We got a diary. Milan prison escape. Mussolini vows response. I met Fraulein Wolf aboard the train to Chiasso. She seemed quite delightful. I hope to see more of her in Riva San Vitale. Well, agree to disagree on that one, brother. Okay, we can see where we are on the map. Fair enough. And there's a pause button, but I don't think that's what we're looking for. Oh. Postcart. Aubrey, I saw the Fraulein again. But before I got to that, let me talk to you about my contact. She didn't acknowledge me, so I marched straight over to her. You know what? I'm done with the Fraulein, alright? Before I get to that, let me tell you about my contact. See you later, madam. Typical sort, Control would send, stiff as a poker. Jumpy as a frog, in the middle of the hotel bar, drink in hand, but not drinking, sticking out like a sore thumb. This is my dude! This is my Fraulein! Exchanging code words wasn't necessary. The Fraulein from the tram was there too, perched on a high stool with a large glass of grappa, looking straight at my contact. Okay. Perhaps you know that man, Fraulein? I avoided approaching him as long as I could. Look at that chump, Fraulein. No, let's go. Perhaps you know that man, Fraulein. No, Fraulein Wolf dislikes you. I believe perhaps we both do, she replied coldly, then tossed back the last of her grappa and climbed down from her stool. Good night, Herr Smith. And with that, she left the bar. It was like a signal. A moment later, my contact appeared. Italian accent. I'm not going to do it. You are the agent, yes? We will go tonight from the bay after dark. Now, a lot of people would consider that a failure condition, that Fraulein Wolf does not like me. I consider that as if we have just drawn our battle lines. Now I know that we're opposing forces. Honestly, I don't want to roleplay as the classic James Bond, Lothario, you know what everybody does in their Dungeons & Dragons campaign. I want to be a dwarf who drinks a lot and has intercourse with everyone. That's not me. I am a pious warrior who gets the job done, who does what is asked until what is asked breaks his moral code, and then he marches to the beat of his own heart. What is this? That's probably a threat level, I assume. So do we go to Melita Crossing? Do I click on this? Do I click on Riva San Vitale? Do I click on Chiasso? Do I scroll up and go to Lugano? Do I understand how video games are played? I don't know. I've closed my map. What's going on in the chalet here? I have reopened my map. I don't know, let's click on the exclamation mark. Alright, this is the one time I'm like, did we screw this up? Oh, the idiot had managed to cross the lake by rowboat. Understood? So what? Tell me something I don't know. Aubrey, I'll spare you the details of how we rode across the lake, but it was... I wonder if we could have chosen, like, a different path around if we were in, like, a different part of the game that had more nodes, maybe? I'll spare you the details of how we rode across the lake, but it was as grim a task as you might expect. My Italian friend did exactly none of the work. I still didn't know what we were doing out here, or... Still, Lake Lugano is quite something. Yeah, let's focus on the positive. You are now noble. Big, wide, enchanting in the moonlight and all the rest. As we drew near to the other side of the lake, I hoped that we had left the curious Fraulein Wolf far behind. Very cinematic. And I don't mean that in the way like there's little interactivity. There's actually a lot of interactivity by narrative game standards, I think, so far. And I appreciate that it's not like a whole paragraph. We say yes or no or I don't know. You know, it's like we really control the threads on the loom of the story so far. But I mean cinematic in the terms of like its presentation. A lot of, like, it reminds me a lot of Assemble with Care, honestly. I'm glad we played these games in close proximity. One of them obviously was a little bit more melancholic and introspective and quaint in a way, at least in the way it told its story. This one's a little bit more Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, but a lot of like coherent threads between them that make them more alike than different. Hitler reaffirms promise not to invade Switzerland. In a meeting between Swiss and German officials last night in Berlin, the German Chancellor reaffirmed his country's commitment to respecting Switzerland's neutrality in the event of war. This should calm fears in the chocolate-loving nation. Is that really relevant? Is that germane to the conversation at hand? That they love chocolate? Which is rumored to have significantly bolstered its Alpine military defense system in recent months. Hotel Alpen. Yo, this is gorgeous. Thought maybe we could click on the plane, knock it down. All of which puts us here, Aubrey, old chum, the imaginatively named Hotel Alpen. The Italian and I sat together at the breakfast table like a perfect couple of chumps. He had his napkin tucked into his collar. Are you ready to tell me where we're going yet? I'm ditching you here, you understand. Or, I don't even know your name. He's gonna tell me, you don't need to know my name, you know, we're spies. So let's hit him with the, are you ready to tell me where we're going yet? The Italian trusts you. The oaf reached across the table and took my hand in his. Please, he said, it is my daughter. She has been taken. We must rescue her. Go on. He took his hand back. Thank God, and patted his chest. I am Primo Vercoli, at your service. Smith? Not your real name, of course, or, frankly, I don't care what your name is. I don't want to be a jerk. You know, he's opening up to me, but we can't trust anybody. You never know how it's going here. He could be triple-crossing. Note, you are extremely honorable. You hear that? Now I'm like, I don't know, dude. I guess we should put ourselves down here. It would, if you're playing the Northernlion drinking game, that's the third time or second time we've moved our camera. Good to make your acquaintance, Senor Smith. I nodded and got back to the business of eating my kippers. We go to the train station in Lugano, he continued, then to Bellinzona. 2-3 hours, then we rescue my daughter. They have her in the castle there. He leant back, evidently pleased with his plan. And now, how was your smoked fish? May I try? Honestly, you tell Control I want that vineyard. He doesn't seem that impolite, Sophie. He doesn't seem like a bad guy so far. I don't see what all your complaints are about. So we need to go to Lugano. Let's go to Lugano then. I'm still trying to figure... Oh, you get to choose one of the two paths here. We walked the 4 miles to Lugano, or we hitchhiked from Melita to Lugano. I mean, we're not gonna hitchhike. That opens us up to information insecurity. Instead, we will walk the 4 miles to Lugano. Of course. Send me. It's not that bad. 4 mile walk. Hour and a half, maybe? It's me again, Aubrey. We followed that lakeside road to Lugano, a 2-hour walk that took 3 hours because Vercoli kept stopping to dab his forehead with a handkerchief. But we reached that town in one piece and with no one on our tail that I could see. Then we strolled towards the station, just a couple of tourists taking the mountain air. My idea was to slip into the station very quietly, over a fence. I planned to hide in plain sight. I mean, a couple of tourists taking in the mountain? No. That's too naive, I think. That's too honorable. We might be a known quantity. That's my experience in this. from watching spy movies such as The Bourne Identity and or The Bourne Ultimatum. They might know us, we must hide in plain sight, instead of walking in naively and then getting made. I would board the train with the swagger of a millionaire. Would the ladies care to choose which mountain I might buy? Champagne for everyone aboard the express. That's not really what I meant by hide in plain sight. I would say that's more flaunting your bravado and daring the enemy to come and meet you. Shall we? I'm ready. The train was ready. We were just about to climb aboard when, there you are, you Hund? A woman's voice, loud, shrill, and familiar. No. I ignored it. Hoping to deflect attention, I gasped and pointed at a short man a few paces down the platform. I ignored it. Be gone. No one here knew me after all. I was worth no one's time. But I was, it seemed, worth a slap in the face. It was the Fraulein, and she looked hell-bent. Speaking of dogs, Fraulein, you seem to be dogging my heels. Or, my darling, but this isn't what you think. Hello, Fraulein, and goodbye. I like this. This is the Sean Connery line. Speaking of dogs, Fraulein, you seem to be dogging my heels. As well I might. She slapped me with the other hand across the other cheek. Whatever she was doing it at the top of her lungs. She turned to address the audience that was beginning to form on the concourse. This man stole a priceless pearl necklace from me in a most ungentlemanly way. Perhaps Primo would vouch for me? To the crowd, it's perfectly alright, this is my wife. Or to the crowd, this woman's a lunatic. Yo, this is where, because Primo trusts us, we lean on him. Perhaps Primo would vouch for me? No. He had slipped away into the crowd, of course. Here! She thrust her hand into my jacket pocket and seemed to produce a string of pearls. The crowd gasped. I heard the clatter of a police car's bell approaching. I turned and ran for the train. Or this is not the end, Fraulein, I declared. You know what? Sometimes you gotta take an L, because an L doesn't mean a loss, it means a lesson. Note, you have been caught by the police. I heard the clatter of a police car's bell approaching. I turned and ran for the train. Wishful thinking, but it was worth a try. As the police dragged me away, I saw the Fraulein getting into a car with a man I didn't recognize who took her arm with sympathetic care. Your journey ends here. Alright, well, I guess we will be traveling to Rivera then, taken by the police. I'm ready. And by ready, I mean hoping to engage in my escape yet again. Well, Aubrey, it's a toss-up. Perhaps the Swiss police are the most insane, or perhaps it's control. I had thought the police would take me to Bellinzona, throw me in the same cell as Vercoli's daughter, and save me a lot of bother. I worked on the officer in the back of the van with me. I worked on the handcuffs as best as I could. I was biding my time. It's the perfect excuse when you're doing nothing. I'm not doing nothing. I'm biding my time. There is always a perfect moment to strike, and only a luckless fool strikes too soon. I had it all worked out, but when the van doors opened, I saw we were not in the lion's den, but rather in some microscopic, unheard-of little town. Shelbyville? I was dragged inside a beer house. The smell, sausages, and stale beer. From the shadows of the back, a cigarette flared. This isn't a police station. Where am I? May I have one of those as well? You gonna remove these handcuffs? Let's hit him with one of these. May I have one of those as well? I have a question for you, English. A man's voice, deep, resonant, French perhaps. What exactly have you been playing at? I don't answer questions from people I can't see. I am English, and I demand you telephone the British Embassy. My mom, Queen Elizabeth II, is gonna be very upset with you. Let's go, I don't answer questions from people I can't see. The police here call spies bedbugs. Did you know that? Little bugs living in their bed. The man paused to draw on his cigarette. Ironic, no? He smiled as he saw the realization dawning on my face. He was one of us. I'd like to understand what you were thinking back in Lugano, making such a spectacle of yourself. It was the German woman? I was heading to Bellinzona with my contact, or I was handling it. I'm gonna tattle. It was the German woman. Note, you are now quite compelling. Was it? Not a question. Well, friend, you are now, as one says, on the radar. The cigarette tapped on an ashtray with some petulance. From here on, for God's sake, stop making it so easy for my men to find you. And don't go off mission. Is that clear? Very. Très bien. A flick of the cigarette, a little scatter of ash, a moment for me to consider. Vercoli, I began. He was my contact, wasn't he? Or, I'll leave you to your cigarette. Let's ask some questions. The police now have your description. We've never heard of Vercoli before. Now get moving. The cigarette moved to indicate a small door at the rear. We'll be in touch once control has worked out what good you can do here. There was no time for more questions. I was hustled away through an empty kitchen, then out the back of the beer house. Well, this is compelling. I don't know who to trust. Let's go to Monte Ceneri. I walked away from the town, or I stole a policeman's bicycle. What is this? So this is like... Maybe this is the events we get on the way? Or maybe this is suspicion raised? I'm not sure. Let's hit the one with more question marks. Oh, we can see how our alert level will change based on the path as well. I wonder if I just noticed that and it's been like that the whole time. So again, there are mechanics here. They were just, honestly, we're like flipping tokens or something. They were so subtle that an oaf such as me was ignorant to them. I imagined the police might start looking for me in Bellinzona, so I hiked up the nearest mountain and decided to lie low on high. Two things were now clear. I mulled them over as I walked. One, Vercoli had not been my contact. As far as control was concerned, I had reached Riva, then gone completely rogue in the company of an unknown Italian. Two, wherever my actual contact had got to, he wasn't coming back. I had only myself to blame. All the signs had been there back in Riva San Vitale. He'd been too nervous, too awkward, but I hadn't been looking properly. What in the devil is wrong with me, Aubrey? Has my success in Milan made me complacent? This must be how Bunny felt right before Control gave him the axe. I walked away from the town. And then I arrived. Yo, what on earth is this? I've gotten to Rivera. Route safe. Police success. Oh, so this is, I see. Sort of. We're almost like we're rolling dice, sort of, to see if we get away from police suspicion. It's very interesting. This might be one of the, like, I'm enjoying it. It might be one of the few times I would prefer an immersion breaking tutorial that's like, when you see these tokens on your screen, in the back end of the program, we're actually like flipping a random number generator 1,000 times. Picture me, Aubrey, log fire, warm brandy. I found an empty cabin up here, marvelously well stocked. You'll think me a lucky devil, but these are the Swiss Alps. The locals are too savvy to be caught short if they're snowed in. And I needed the brandy. I was mixed up in something, and it was rattling around inside of my head like loose change. I knew I wouldn't be able to leave it alone. A man could shoot himself quite happily out here. Let's skip that one. I imagined confronting Vercoli. No, I knew I wouldn't be able to leave it alone. I had a feeling there was something in this wretched business that would be worth following up on. I want to finish the peninsula, and then see what happens. That might be unrealistic because we've got at least one more before we get to Bellinzona. But what have I done? I want to see how this comes to a resolution. I passed a lonely and restless night. The Fraulein had set me up. She directed me to Vercoli just carefully enough to let me fill in the blanks. Whereas the Italian had lied to my face. Never trust anyone, Aubrey. Basic skycraft. No, it had been an excellent piece of work. Fraulein Wolf is coming to appreciate you. Iron sharpens iron. I had to give her that. By the morning, I had new resolve. I would stay in the game, keep playing along, all the way to Bellinzona and Vercoli. If I could find the Italian, perhaps I could discover the truth. And if this business turned out to be more trouble than it was worth, let's see what this gets us. Well, then I'd chuck it in and take a holiday, enjoy the alpine air. After all, I was technically a free agent until Control made up his mind. And if the Fraulein wanted this Italian girl freed from that castle, chances were better than ever that Control would be interested too. Send me. To Cadenazzo. I made my way downhill on foot. I don't really have any other options, so let's do it. Okay, we got a diversion in there. At the foot of the mountain was a pretty little village called Cadenazzo. I took a shortcut into the village by way of a paddock fence, or I took the main road in. Let's be spies for once. Rather reckless as it turned out, I tore my jacket on some barbed wire. I was thirsty and footsore and badly in need of a break. Okay, and then this is our resolution check. Police successfully evaded. Oh, so this is how far away from me they are. And because I left a clue, they're getting closer. I'm starting to get it. It's taken me a bit. The bust of Bellinzona departs whenever you are ready. Soviet Union ratifies non-aggression pact with Germany. Today, the Supreme Soviet of the Soviet Union ratified the Treaty of Non-Aggression as okay as the Molotov-von Ribbentrop. No, Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. It's not von. You're thinking of von Moltke. You got it all confused. Anyway, okay, so I've tried to flex the basic high school level of historical knowledge and failed. Let's move on. The little church of Cadenazzo was dim and empty inside, blissfully cool. I hadn't realized how much I'd been feeling the sun until I was out of it. The space was so quiet that for a moment I didn't see the priest, sitting on the front pew, his head bowed. I took a seat at the back, quietly. The priest must have had exceptional hearing. He addressed me in Italian. Do you want the red pill or the blue pill? You are welcome, whoever you are. Thank you, Daddy. What can you tell me about Bellinzona, Father? You're a tourist, are you? Bellinzona is loved for its 3 marvelous castles, though you can't go inside them anymore. All without turning his head. That was when I realized he was blind. What's your name, my child? My name is my business. Warning, you left a footprint. I have nothing against priests, but now was hardly the moment for confession. He didn't seem to mind. My name is Locarno. Father Locarno, like the town not far from here, across the lake. I have just come from Locarno, I lied. You left a diversion. Let's go. Then you are on your way to Bellinzona, he replied, to see the castles. Are the castles worth seeing? Note, something suspicious is happening in Sasso Corbaro. His smile darkened into a frown, except for Sasso Corbaro, which God saw fit to strike with lightning and leave a ruin, a place of evil, no doubt. The priest nodded at the floor. You have been walking a long time, he remarked, and yet you have no belongings. I trust this priest. I'm on the run from the police. I don't know why I trusted him in that moment, but I did. Did you kill someone? No. I wondered then if Vercoli's daughter was still alive, if Vercoli had been killed trying to rescue her. There didn't seem to be any more to be said. I offered my farewells and received a blessing in return. Okay, you know what? Take me on the bus to Bellinzona. It might not be the most appropriate way to do this, but I want to see how this resolves, because I'm assuming this is like the final act here, and we can get a little bit of a bead on how things are, how the actual structure of the game works. Because it is in an act-based format. I slipped up aboard the bus to Bellinzona, hat down, collar up. The driver didn't pay me a second glance. But a few passengers noticed the state of my torn shirt and murmured with disapproval. They remember me well enough. A man with a fine set of whiskers tapped me on the arm. You're headed to Bellinzona, I think. I gave him a thin smile. It is a beautiful city, he continued. Myself, I'm heading for Biasca. It's a little further to the north. There's a little place up there where I like to stay. I should look it up. Polite deference. Oh no, it is for Swiss only, you understand. I must have said something wrong because he made a show of coughing and returned to admiring the view. Okay. No brim off my hat. They've moved backwards because of the diversion. They've moved closer because of the clue. They've moved backwards because of the diversion. They're at the very back. Police successfully evaded. You have a strong lead on them, but remain vigilant. All right. See, I'm starting. The mechanics are percolating. Bellinzona. Whoa! Take me to the spooky castle, please. My first move was to climb the rocky outcrop to the ruins of the Sasso Corbaro Castle. White Knight to Black Castle. Check. If the Italian girl was inside, I'd get her out. Assuming there even was an Italian girl in there to rescue, this was only Vercoli's word for it after all. Yo, we could... Let's go Fraulein strats. I knew the Fraulein would be somewhere nearby. I'm also gonna alt-tab temporarily just to lower the volume. It got a little spicy towards the end here. Assuming there even was an... Oh, no, we already did that. I figure it might be worth knowing where. Alright, where's the Fraulein? Where's the Fraulein? If there was a man in that truck, I could have the uniform. Before I did anything else, I need to find Vercoli. No, if there was a man in the truck, I could have that uniform. I held the notion of stealing it, then slipping into the castle in disguise. The truck's driver had parked right next to a stand of long grass, practically begging to be knocked on the head with a rock. I sauntered over and knocked on the cab door. Excuse me. I lay in wait. You failed to knock out the soldier. When the guard appeared, I bungled to strike. I'm out of practice, Aubrey. Too many dinner dances and not enough fisticuffs. After laying me flat, he disappeared inside the castle. I slipped away. I wasn't ready yet. That hurts. I do think I'm gonna can it here, though, after that failed attempt to get inside. I like what this game's got going on. This seems like, first off, one of the better Apple Arcade games I've played for sure, and something that definitely would shine on tablets, which is where, to be honest, I prefer to play these kind of more minimalistic, from a mechanics standpoint, narrative games. But it finds a worthy home on PC. I know 80 Days made it to PC as well, and you know, I think that's a game, and this is a game as well, that's worth playing in spite of the platform, or regardless of the platform is a better way to describe it. This is a lot of fun. You might think that I found myself not that into it as a result of the fact that I always describe myself as more mechanics-driven versus narrative-driven, but really, when the mechanics and the narrative are interwoven, I oftentimes find myself having a good time, as I did right here. It's really more like, I dislike when a game opens with like a 15-minute spiel with like comic book panel storytelling, and then they give you the tutorial. This was interwoven and leaving so nicely that I had a great time, actually. Go check it out on Steam. It does come out the day that this video goes live, probably like an hour after this video goes live. I did receive a code from the developers, so thank you for that. It's fun. I had a fun time. Can I go back to the main menu? You never know in these games. Take me to save and quit. There we go. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. This game is called Over the Alps. Available on Steam as of today. Go check it out on Steam. If you want to pick it up. Wish list it. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video. We got subscriber milestones very quickly approaching, including playing some Super Smash Brothers and another narrative game, Doki Doki Literature Club at 820,000. And of course, I'm in the comments, reading, replying, responding, hearting, etc., etc. Hope to see you there. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya!